And talk to us more about their lives in space, right? Do they have a daily routine in space? I mean, what factors are taken into consideration?
I think
creating such routine.
Yeah, it is going to be different from our daily living on Earth, but they still need to keep their clock, their biological clock, right? So as Professor Yang mentioned, they've already had their dinner. They're not gonna have dinner right now or at say 7 p.m. or something. Yeah. Before the launch, they're trying to fit their new biological clock. Yeah, just like that. If we are flying to Europe, we are gonna have a time difference. They're gonna fit their time difference and their new clock in space right before the launch of the mission.
Yeah, they probably have to stay up all night today. Huh?
Not exactly. You see that they will only stay in the Shenzhou spacecraft for 6.5 hours before the docking. So we've already chosen the faster rendezvous and docking. The astronauts today is already very, very convenient than before. You know that during the first crewed rendezvous and docking mission in the Shenzhou-9 mission and the Shenzhou-10 mission, the astronauts need to stay in the Shenzhou spacecraft for about 2 days. So that's a little bit tough because you know that the inner volume is really, really small, very, very narrow space. So not so comfortable when they compare with their time in the space station. And it is very interesting, you know, that in other countries, especially since the start of the manned space era, you know that they have formed the tradition. The male astronauts will, during their trip from their hotel to the launch pad, they will stop in a certain point and pee to the view of the ground vehicle. So they've already formed this tradition since Gagarin, the first flight.
And what kind of impact will it have on the astronauts living in space for 6 months?
Actually speaking, they will face this very crucial condition, and we must be well considered and well trained for this. The first one is the loss of bones, because of you don't have any stimulation from the gravity, so your bones will be weaker and weaker, and not only your bones, but also your cardiovascular system and muscles and your neural system. So we must be well trained for that. So the physical exercise is extremely important for the astronaut to keep them healthy and to ensure their safety, especially during the return. Because you know that not only during the liftoff, but also during the return, they will experience the G-forces normally about 3 to 4 times greater than your own mass. And also the intensive vibration will also, they must adapt that and be well trained about that.
And they can work out there up in space,
Absolutely.
right? They have treadmills up there.
But you know, that's, yes. And also, you know, that the challenge is the training is not only solving the problem you met during the normal process, and also it's more tough to training of the abnormal cases. For instance, what I mentioned, the G-forces in emergency escape will reach to about 8 to 10 times your own mass. So you can see how tough it is. And for the, you know, that's all the 3 crew members are chosen as categorized as the pilots. For the pilots, not only you must be normal during this 8 to 10 G, but also they must have the capability to do any operations at these circumstances. So that's a real, very tough, challenging training for them. Moreover, you see, they can survive at least for 2 days in a very, very unfriendly environment. For instance, they were trained in the Badan-Jilin desert for 2 days. Every member, no exception, can survive. They only have very limited supplies. So this training are also very necessary.
And what else has been done on the front of health management for the crew?
Yeah, they actually need to go through, as we mentioned, their quarantine is actually trying to keep them healthy before the launch. And before that, they actually have good diet, good healthy training, and sports training, and a lot of different, say, medication observations, monitoring, making sure that they are healthy. Yeah, because when they are in the space, they can only have telemedicine with our medical doctors on Earth, right? So a lot of treatments will not be available in the space.
So they do have medical support when they're up there.
Yes, not only during their flight in the orbit, but also before and after the flight. So the medical team is a very big team, not only monitoring their biological parameters, but also doing a lot of things, such as, for instance, design the such as you mentioned that, and also their daily schedule. Usually, that just when the time is close to their return, they will increase their exercise every day. Because that after half the year in orbit, even if you already have so much exercise, and even if you will have a very good nutrition, but still you need to enhance your bones, your strength, your muscles during the return procedure. Because you must face not only the normal return, also the G forces will be 3 to 4 G. But in abnormal cases, it will be very, very tough for them. And my friends, Miss Ye Yan from Korea, also
there you have
this.
it. I think this is one of the astronauts. I think this is Li Guangsu standing up. Li Guangsu.
Li Guangsu, 03.
03.
03, the code is
That's his
03.
code number.
He will enter first. Because the commander needs to sit in the middle, so he must be the last one.
So Li Guangsu is sliding in to this is the orbital module, and then he will descend to the re-entry module.
That every time they have some personal private belongings. Mr. Li Guangsu mentioned that he will borrow some toys of his kid.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, you can see that the ground staff from
the
probably the Shenzhou spaceship system in the orbital module help the astronauts.
It's not easy to get in, huh?
Yes, exactly. Very, very, you can see very, very narrow space. Now this is a camera in the re-entry capsule. In the middle is the seat of the commander. So he will go first, reach this, we usually call this basin. In the physics. Each basin is designed according to their personal body shape. Yes, exactly.
It's not that easy to walk in that space suit.
So Mr. Li Guangsu will sit in the basin close to the camera on the left. Yeah.
After him, next up is
Mr.
Li Cong.
Yes.
Well, Ye Guangfu waits for his turn.
That Mr. Li Cong has...
北京景山报告。我是北京景山请讲。景山天路长江7号3小时准备完毕。景山报告完毕。北京明白。
T-minus 3 hours.
They've done all the
has already been
necessary
ready.
checkups.
Mr. Li Cong is what we call the 02. 02 has a very important task.
What is it?
Yeah. During the landing, he is in charge of the button to cut off the parachute.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a very important task.
Very, very important. During the history, we only have a perfect landing vertically during the Shenzhou-6 mission and the Shenzhou-13 mission. Only in these two missions, the Shenzhou re-entry capsule stand there vertically.
So the other ones, they landed on the side?
Yeah, they lie down.
Rotations.
That a vertical landing will be more comfort. But this is a very high requirement to the parachute cutter.
There's a yellow bag there with some manuals and necessary checkup stuffs in there.
Yeah, and Mr. Li Cong is the youngest guy in this crew, only 35 years old. Okay,
now
commander.
the flight commander, Ye Guangfu.
This is second mission, and Mr. Ye Guangfu will break the record of the duration of stay in outer space for our Chinese technonauts.
A very short gap between the two missions, huh?
Yes, not only the
2
gap,
years, 9
that
days.
he's already in outer space for half a year. So this is another half a year. So after this mission, he will stay the first astronaut in China that stay in the orbit for 1 year.
Look at that, a record breaker.
A record breaker, yes.
Now what's different for him is that he will be staying in the orbital module for a bit, completing the final status checks as he is the flight commander.
Yeah.
After all the final checkups, he will descend into the re-entry module.
Yeah. So this is we see that these cameras.
我是北京华山请讲。华山3小时准备完毕。北京明白。
We're a little over 2 hours till
T
the
minus 3
liftoff.
hours preparation has already been done.
Yep. I
You
mean,
can
they
see-
will be staying in the spacecraft for more than 2 hours before the
Flight.
blast off.
Yes.
What kind of procedures will they go through at this stage?
Well, there are a lot of work to do. So first, when all the 3 crew members has already entered the re-entry capsule, they must, with the help of the ground staff, they must close the hatch between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule. And then the hatch on the side of the orbital module will also be closed. And then another hatch on the payload fairing. So there are 3 hatches they need to close. And also, during this procedure, we must check if it is already formed the what we call the airtight sealings. So keeps the pressure of the inner volumes atmosphere is extremely critical to ensure the safety and life of our astronauts. And also, not only the airtight sealing of the cabin will be examined, but also their IVA spacesuit. After they close their helmet, face mask, they will also check this.
So on your right, we are seeing a great look of what's inside the re-entry module. That is where the 3 astronauts will be staying. Talk to us more about what are we seeing inside that capsule. What is that big yellow bag hanging on the wall?
There are some cargoes together with the astronauts. Not only we need these cargoes for maybe because what you asked is in the re-entry capsule. So in the re-entry capsule, we also have some supplies for emergency escape, either during the liftoff or during the return. Because in emergency case, they may splash down in the ocean or land in the desert. So they must have the supplies to, for instance, the food and water, and that even they have the pistol. A gun to protect them from the beast, wild beast they may meet.
Do they have a lifeboat in there?
Yes, actually, very, very professional. The China cooperates with ESA in many years before, conducted a rescue training in the near the Shandong province, in the actually in the Yellow Sea or near the Bohai. So this kind of training, they have a lifeboat, which can be inflamed very soon to save the lives of our astronauts in the ocean.
You can see all the 3 astronauts are seated by now. They're putting on their seat belts, their protection belts.
The yellow bags you see has also another very important function to adjust the position of the center of the mass of our re-entry capsule. Because that during the re-entry, the position of the centroid or the center of the mass is also very important to adjust a right trajectory of our re-entry procedure.
And right in front of their seats is a control panel.
Yes.
The buttons on that control panel are generally bigger than the usual ones.
Because they usually wear their gloves.
Gloves.
So they must have big buttons.
Yeah, and they're further apart as well.
Yeah. And Mr. Ye Guangfu, the commander, sits in the middle. So in an emergency case, he is in charge of the judgment of the right choice.
They're putting all the stuff into that yellow bag, and that'll be removed from the re-entry module.
You may also notice that at this moment, all their helmets are open. Their face masks are open.
Right.
But they will check if it can form an airtight sealing. If anything wrong happens to the IVA spacesuit, there will also be a termination of the mission. Because this is a second protection. Although this is a backup measure to ensure their safety, but still very, very important.
But this type of emergency stop never happened, right?
Yeah, never happened for the China before.
Right.
But they do have a tragedy in the Soyuz-11 missions. During the Soyuz-11 missions in 1971, the 3 cosmonauts lost their lives because they don't have IVA spacesuits.
I would imagine they have to go through a number of emergency trainings, right? Tons of emergency trainings. Whereas there is an emergency in space, you don't really have much time to think. They have to make immediate actions. I mean, what types of major emergencies are out there at the space station?
quite right. Not only what you mentioned, but also that in this emergency situation, how to breathe, they also must be trained for this. And also, that it's relatively safe when they already in the orbit. But still, that I can still remember that during the Shenzhou-18 mission, there is a fake signal of the sensors so Mr. Jing Haipeng called that there is a fire in the orbital module. So you can see how dangerous it is.
Yeah, fire, depressurization, leak of ammonia. Those
Yeah,
are some
exactly.
of the risks.
Yeah. So what you mentioned, the leakage of the pipe is also a very important task for this Shenzhou-18 mission, because they will provide some protections during the EVA for the pipes and also the cables outside our Tiangong space station. Because we cannot afford that if any space debris hits these very critical parts.
What are they doing now? It looks like they're connecting some kind of pipes,
And,
tubes.
Yes, there are all kinds of safety belt for them. They must fasten all the safety belts for them, because not only they will experience the G forces, but also have the intensive vibration during the ascent stage. And also they must check if everything goes okay. Not only what we already discussed about the IVA spacesuit, but also everything inside their cabin. You can see there are all kinds of instruments
收集
around
计
you.
算机理论道检查及3小时准备情况。
We just heard the voice that the ground team is checking the theoretical trajectory of the rocket.
计算机理论弹道检查正常。
So it is normal.
计算机理论弹道检查正常，3小时准备完毕。渭南，计算机理论弹道检查正常。
Do they have entertainment activities other than work? Do they have off days when they're in space?
Well, you see that I can still remember that Mr. Ye Guangfu, that he's the former crew member of the Shenzhou-18 mission. I can still remember that during the just several hours before the Shenzhou-18 mission, Yaping, who is also the crew member of the Shenzhou-18 mission, just posted in the WeChat moment. It is a good entertainment for her.
Oh, yeah.
But this also shows that she is full of confidence. Even at this moment, she can post the WeChat moment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
As you were-
look at that long stick Ye Guangfu is using.
So that's because that will be fastened the seat belt in the basin, and if they want to push the buttons, they use this one.
What kind of food will they have up there? Do they get to choose their own meal plans?
They also have food inside this re-entry capsule, but they don't have the heaters to eat the hot food at this stage, because that's the what we call a kitchen is in the orbital module. So only when they already come into the orbit and open the hatch between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule, at this moment they can have some hot food.
And I suppose they cannot take showers when they're up there, huh?
Not only during this flight in the Shenzhou spaceship, but also no chance in the space station. They will wipe their skin.
Sponge bath.
Yeah, exactly.
Professor Ni earlier mentioned that how will they be, having haircuts?
Right.
They will help each other. Each was trained for this.
So they do a lot of training. Yeah, you
kinds
can
of
see.
stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of training for their daily life, for very professional missions, right?
To just daily life tasks.
Yeah, daily life tasks could be very different in space in those microgravity conditions, right? And if you are not well trained, some very regular behaviors on Earth with regular gravity might be very dangerous in space, actually. Yeah.
And Professor Nie, you actually work in the field of AI and brain-computer interface. You mentioned some of the experiments that they are bringing to space include experiments on brain-computer interface.
Right, because they're going to do all kinds of university. Shanghai Jiao Tong University are doing work on investigating how human brain is actually functioning in space, and can we actually use those to help and monitor the health condition? Yeah.
Okay, we just heard from the ground commander, T-2 hours and counting.
So what kind of experiment outcomes are you most looking forward to?
I'm actually looking forward to the new animal experiments, like the zebrafish experiments I've just explained, and also some stem cell experiments of plants, because that will lead to new understanding of how are we gonna grow new possible plants on Earth, and also there will be a lot of material science and mechanics and also space health experiments I think in this batch of research. We'll see a lot of them. But my personal favorite would be seeing the human-related research on understanding, protecting the astronauts.
Right. And we're hearing words that reporter Sun Ye is following the Shenzhou-18 launch on the ground at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. She's joining us live now. Sun Ye, what do you have for us now?
Hey there, Qiuyuan. I'm saying hello to you again at perhaps the best viewing point for the spectacle. This evening, we are again 1.5 kilometers away from the launch pad. We are 1.5 kilometers away from the rocket, and this is really the closest layman can get. But still, as you see, the rocket is still wrapped in those rotation platforms. It's still protected. As the launch gets even nearer, those rotation platforms will unwrap one by one. Now, as you already know, the taikonauts, they are getting into the Shenzhou spaceship, I think right now. And even if we cannot see the spaceship, we have someone who can tell us all about the Shenzhou spaceship, even with her eyes closed. Now, we have Miss Luo Guqing. She's with China Academy of Space Technology, and it's a really rare privilege to have her here while on mission. 谢谢您，罗老师来参加我们这个直播哈。我们现在其实看不到这个神舟飞船，但是应该说航天员已经进去了。他们在飞船里面现在感觉会是什么样？
Are they feeling right now?
现在正在是应该是
right
现在这
now
个时间
，we
3位航
could
天员
talk
已经
about
进去了。
the three
在我
taikonauts
们
already
神
inside
舟飞船的辅助人
the
员已经进去了。
airships.
那么3个航天员里面，在里
For
面
three
这种
taikonauts,
空间环境以及那个生理环境吧，我们都是做了非常详细的
they
设计
have
和
well
考虑的。
prepared, and also during the design phase, we also had a thorough consideration about the living condition and also the whole temperature inside around 26 degrees, and also the humidity is also quite nice. So it's similar as we stay inside the room. So we believe the taikonauts actually feel nothing different from the ground.
我们之前您也讲到，可能
Yes, indeed, as you mentioned, it's very comfortable inside. So can we compare to other means of that the vehicles or transportation means? So think about like airplane.
当然跟飞机类比，应该是跟那
And
个
we
经济舱来
believe that, of
比较
course, you
一下
compare to economic. The
它是
seats
但是它这个
that we talk
躺
about
着的这个位置，应该还是相
that's
对来
the
说比较
eight
舒服的。
very comfortable for even more
坐
comfortable.
飞机一样哈。
for
另外
taikonauts.
我们其实每一次来这儿
So
看
every
神舟
time
飞船
when
它要
we
发射，我们知道
visited
神
this
舟飞船它
place
是
to
非常安全、
witness
非
the
常
blast
可靠
off
的
of
一
the
款飞船，但是
Shenzhou
它为这一次任务
aircraft
有
and also the
改变吗？
rockets. Anything changed this
这个
time for
是
this mission
是神舟
specifically?
飞船是一
So
个
for
载人飞
Shenzhou,
船的
that's the a
交通工
manned
具，对我们来
spaceship.
说是。
For us,
那么
it's a
这个飞
mean of
船进行应
transportation.
该说是已经
So
30
for
年了。
us, actually,
那么为
the
了这
whole
个
tap
神
or
舟
theory
我们
of the
一直是以
Shenzhou
那个
actually that's already that fix used for more than 3 decades. For us, the main purpose for these aircraft, the airship, is for sending the technonauts to the space. Of course, we have made improvements along with the advancement of the technologies. And we talk about each and every improvement that has gone through rounds of tests on ground and also in space. So this time, talking about the improvements, I believe 2 things I would like to share with you. One thing is the solar panel cells. And this time we changed to the lithium cells. So they can charge even faster and lighter weight and also smaller in size. So for the same continent, actually show more benefits and also actually can get adapted to different kinds of environment. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time to talk about that, how that we feel when that technonaut sitting inside, and also the improvements made this time for the mission. And we will very soon see that the technonauts will be in the space and wait for their feelings to share with us. Thank you very much.
Now, Ms. Luo, just share with us what does it feels like to be riding in that spaceship. Now, earlier we've also talked to a rocket expert, and he said that riding the Long March 2F manned carrier rocket, it's something like driving or staying in a Mercedes-Benz. It's comfortable, it's smooth. You only get that extra G when you've gone for a while. Now, I have one more piece of good news for tonight. Now, it's windy and it's still bright sunlight right now, but tonight it's a full moon night, and we've just checked. The moonrise is somewhere around 2030. So I think it's fair reason that we can tone up our expectation for tonight a little bit more.
Wow, it's nice that we can get a view of the full moon as the backdrop of this rocket launch. That'll be really incredible. Thank you very much, seeing you live for us at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. You're now watching our special coverage of the launch of China's Shenzhou-18 crewed mission. The 3 taikonauts have entered the cabin, and the spaceship will blast off from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in less than 2 hours. So stay tuned to that. And before that, I'll hand things over to my colleague Xia Cheng for some major news making headlines across the world. Xia Cheng.
Thank you, Qiu Yuan. So first up, China has reaffirmed
keine Stimme, wenn's drauf ankommt. Elo Revoice Halstabletten. Hilft schnell, spürbar und langanhaltend.
山出轨根数及分离点参数已发出。东风。
东风收到。
华山。
华山收到。
报告对应，我是东风告炮停，收集第一次综合检查情况。景山。
景山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
08号。 第一次综合检查正常。太原。
第一次综合检查正常。
渭南。
第一次综合检查正常。
青岛。
第一次综合检查正常。
酒泉。
第一次综合检查正常。
千山。
第一次综合检查正常。
双城。
第一次综合检查正常。
5号。
第一次综合检查正常。
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山、江阴、天路及长江7号第一次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
东风，我是华山。
我是东风，华山请讲。
华山第一次综合检查正常。
东风明白。 注意，我是东风，收集航天员进舱后话音检查准备情况，北京。
状态准备完毕。
酒泉。
状态准备完毕。
0号，我是东风。话音检查准备完毕。
0号明白。
航天员叶光富，
航天员李聪，
航天员李广苏，出发！
是，敬礼。
东风，我是0号，航天员进舱后话音检查正常。
东风明白。北京，东风报告。
我是北京，东风请讲。
各号注意，我是东风，话音检查正常，北京。
北京明白。
酒泉
明白。 山预置指令已发出。
东风明白。
Keine Stimme, wenn's drauf ankommt. Gelo Revoice Halstabletten. Hilft schnell, spürbar und langanhaltend.
顶山报告。
我是北京，景山请讲。
景山报告测量船当前海况及2小时准备情况。长江7号海况4级，浪高1.5米，风力2级，能见度15公里。景山、天路、长江7号2小时准备完毕。景山报告完毕。
北京明白。
北京华山报告。
我是北京，华山请讲。
华山2小时准备完毕。
北京明白。
报告注意，收集2小时准备情况。0号。
2小时准备完毕。
太原。
2小时准备完毕。
渭南。
2小时准备完毕。
青岛。
2小时准备完毕。
酒泉。
2小时准备完毕。
青山。
2小时准备完毕。
双城。
2小时准备完毕。
5号。
2小时准备完毕。
天仓。
2小时准备完毕。
北京东风报告。
我是北京，东风请讲。
东风2小时准备完毕，报告完毕。
北京明白。
important point for the launch procedure. You see now on the right of the screen is the video camera mounted in the re-entry capsule. And you can see that all the 3 crew members of the Shenzhou-18 have already been ready.
That is
and now you can see the launch service tower. You may notice that at this moment...
Got to mention the call out.
Yes.
It's now
and
officially
you may know that it's
less
very
than 1
interesting.
hour to
Look,
go.
The top platform, there are 4 platforms on the launch service tower, but the one on the top has already been rotated, opened. So you may notice that at this moment, the emergency escape tower has opened to the space. So if anything wrong happened, we can use the emergency escape system to save the lives of our astronauts.
What kind of procedures have been completed by now? I mean, have the hatch been closed?
I believe at this moment, all the hatches has already been closed and the airtight ceilings has already been attached. And at this moment, they still have some ground staff, either from the astronaut system or from the mainly from the Shenzhou spaceship systems, still do some logistics for the launch. And just several minutes later, all of them will withdrawn from the launch complex. But at this moment, still, as you mentioned, the checking is still going on. So there are, millions of parts and components in the carrier rocket and also in the Shenzhou spaceships. So we must ensure the reliability and the proper procedure of every subsystem. So the checking are very, very necessary for different systems. So this is still going on.
Yeah, weather looks quite nice. We've got clear sky. It's getting dark. And for more details at what's happening there at the launch site, we can go live to our reporter Sun Ye, live for us near the launch pad. Sun Ye, bring us the latest. What is happening right now?
Hey there, Qiuyuan. Hello again from 1.5 kilometers from the launch pad. I have to break a bit of sad news to you. Remember, we were talking about today is a full moon's day, and the moonrise is somewhere near 9 o'clock in the evening. Now we just checked the weather, the clouds. They're kind of too cloudy, so we're not necessarily going to see the moon tonight. But we'll wait. We are still keeping our hopes high. But in the moment since we last talked, we also talked to an expert, and he said the 3 taikonauts now in the capsule, they're doing just fine. They're monitoring the Shenzhou-18 crew's heart rates, they're breathing, and they're calm, and they're fine. Now, the experts say today's taikonauts, they're essentially responsible and expected to do everything their predecessors have done and more. And this year, we really get a sense of what that more really means. Now, China Manned Space Agency said yesterday that today's active taikonauts, as well as future taikonauts, including the 4th generation of taikonauts that's already being selected. These people, they're not going to only work for China's space station, they're also going to be preparing for China's manned lunar missions. And those manned lunar missions means a whole different set of skills required of Chinese taikonauts. They're going to be operating a different spaceship, a spaceship for the moon. They're going to do a lot of maneuvers different from what they've been preparing for China Space Station. Also, they are going to be operating lunar rovers for long distance on the moon. So there are a lot of things happening right now as the Shenzhou-18 crew ready for their mission. And these people could also someday make it to the moon. Qiuyuan.
Very exciting now. Thank you very much. So you're live for us near the launch pad at Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. We're officially less than 1 hour to go till the liftoff, and to learn more about the spacecraft carrying the Shenzhou-18 mission, reporter Zheng Yibing talked to a senior researcher for the spacecraft system.
The Shenzhou-18 is a 3rd manned spacecraft for mission to China's space station. It has the same design as Shenzhou-16, 17, and the following 19 spacecraft.
From the general technical state, there are the orbital module, the re-entry module, and the propellant module. And there are solar panels and the engines. They are consistent with the previous technological designs.
The biggest difference this time is upgrade to the spacecraft's battery. replacing the cadmium nickel battery with lighter and smaller lithium one, which has a much longer life.
The Shenzhou spacecraft as a manned vehicle requires the highest safety and reliability. The upgrade to the battery has been fully verified in our space station, cargo ships, and other spacecraft.
There were also small modifications, like a little more space for space science experiments, and Chen Tongxiang explained how Shenzhou-18's flight will go.
It is the 7th manned flight for China's space station. After liftoff from Jiuquan, it will fly for 6.5 hours and make orbital transfer, and then the fast rendezvous and docking with the space station. Shenzhou-18 crew will rotate with Shenzhou-17 crew and stay in the station for 6 months and then return.
For this mission, the Shenzhou spacecraft system has been working day and night to make sure the flight goes smoothly. Zheng Yibing, CCTN in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
We're bringing you more details and live coverage of the launch later this hour. But before that, I'll hand you over now to my colleague Xia Cheng for some of the top news making headlines around the world. Xia Cheng.
Thank you, Qiu Yuan. First up, Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for building world-class military medical universities to serve Chinese troops. He made the remarks during a visit to the Army Medical University in Chongqing, southwest China. He said the university is an important part of the nation's military medical
东风各号请收集第2次综合检查情况。景山。
景山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
08号。
第2次综合检查正常。
太原。
第2次综合检查正常。
渭南。
第2次综合检查正常。
青岛。
第2次综合检查正常。
酒泉。
第2次综合检查正常。
千山。
第2次综合检查正常。
双城。
第2次综合检查正常。
5号。
第2次综合检查正常。
东风，我是华山。东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。我是东风，景山请讲。
景山江阴天路长江7号第2次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
东风，我是华山。
我是东风，华山请讲。
华山第2次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
京景山报告。
我是北京景山，请讲。
景山报告测量船当前海况及1小时准备情况。长江7号海况4级，浪高1.5米，风力2级，能见度15公里。景山天路长江7号1小时准备完毕。景山报告完毕。
北京明白。
北京华山报告。
我是北京华山，请讲。
华山1小时准备完毕。
北京明白。
报告注意，收集1小时准备情况，0号。
1小时准备完毕。
太原。
1小时准备完毕。
渭南。
1小时准备完毕。
青岛。
1小时准备完毕。
酒泉。
1小时准备完毕。
千山。
1小时准备完毕。
双城。
1小时准备完毕。
5号。
1小时准备完毕。
天仓。
1小时准备完毕。
北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
东风1小时准备完毕，报告完毕。
北京明白。东风，我是北京。
东风到。
全区各号1小时准备完毕，30分钟准备及后续口令由你下达。东风。
东风明白。0号，我是东风。
0号到。
全区各号1小时准备完毕，30分钟准备及后续口令由你下达。
明白。神舟，我是0号。现在起，神舟18号由0号指挥。
tower has opened,
Yeah.
except for the last part that is enclosing
Exactly.
the spacecraft.
You see, for the launch complex, we built that in 1990s. It has 4 rotational platforms, but very interesting, the first one on the top will be opened. And then we open the other 3 ones from the bottom to the top. But that because the emergency escape system must be activated just very close to launch, so that must be opened first. And then, as you mentioned, the one on the bottom will be opened, so we can first see the 4 boosters and the core stage. The Long March 2.
So we've got some movement coming up.
Okay, maybe this is the last platform.
各号注意，我是0号，30分钟准备，长征。
30
That's
minutes.
T minus 30 minutes. Yes, that is the spacecraft. You can see this is the fairing covering the spacecraft. And right now the 3 astronauts are strapped in.
08号。
The weather looks quite nice, Professor. So what would be an ideal weather for a launch like this?
The ideal would be we have clear air, we have no wind or very little windy days, we have low humidity, and of course we don't want it to be a rainy day or even lightning. We want to keep clear from all the lightning or other, say, extreme conditions.
Now, space launches, it's said that they don't usually take place in April because of the risk of strong winds and sandstorms. So they are taking a bit of a risk here.
Yeah, I think because of usually in the spring, even we're in Beijing, we feel the weather changing dramatically in April. Yeah, that's pretty much the same in the northern part of China. Yeah, so usually they try to prevent this period, but as Professor Yang mentioned, they have specific reasons for a lot of prerequisites need to meet in order to fit the schedule of the launching.
One important factor we must consider is that because in this operation phase of our Tiangong space station, we must have 2 rocket launch in the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. The interval is half a year. So maybe one of the season is, for instance, August will be very ideal. But if we launch that Shenzhou spaceship in August, which means that after 6 months, it will be in winter, extremely cold weather. So that will be not very feasible. So the most ideal choice will be one in spring and the other in autumn. So that will be better, not too bad for us.
This is a great view of the rocket. You can see the full rocket by now. Is the rocket running on its own?
No, at this moment you can see that they're not, although already all the rotational platforms has already leaving the rocket, but you can still see some small arms, mechanical arms connected to the launch vehicle. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of cables, pipes, and other connections to the launch vehicle. So at this moment, still we use the electricity from the ground. So this is to save the energy in the storage batteries either inside the carrier rocket and also inside the spacecraft. So only several minutes before the flight, we change the power supply from the ground electricity power supply to the inner storage batteries. So this is also obviously is a very critical procedure for the launch, but that usually nothing serious. But not only this, we choose what we call the hypergolic propulsion system, which use the UDMH or unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide as the fuel and oxidizer. For both these propellants can work in room temperature, so very convenient for use, but it is toxic and corrosive. So you may notice in the Wenchang spacecraft launch site, we use another choice, use cryogenic propulsion system, which use liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen.
And when will the team be leaving the launch tower?
I believe most of the ground staff now at this moment has already left the launch complex, but maybe still remains because that they leave the launch complex with different batches. So some are in charge of certain subsystems. When their task has been accomplished, they will leave. And then maybe some critical systems still need the logistics, so they will leave at the last moment.
And the safe
maybe
zone,
10 minutes or 15 minutes before the flight.
The safe zone is at least 1.5 kilometers away, and we are A little more than 25 minutes prior to the launch, the Shenzhou-18 crew is taking a self-sufficient ecosystem with it to the China space station. The experiment they would be working on involved the second most complex vertebrate the space station has ever seen. Sun Ye has this report.
4 zebrafish, 2 females, 2 males, a bunch of hornwort. In a watertight fish tank the size of 2 or 3 water bottles, China space station's first experiment on vertebrates other than human beings looks something like this. The project on aquatic life support system in space is part of the many science studies the Shenzhou-18 mission will undertake. Professor Wang Gaohong, one of the scientists behind this lively experiment, says the aim is to keep the small ecosystem self-sufficient, where the homeward conducts photosynthesis with LED light and let the fish be alive and happy for a month. So happy that they may lay eggs.
Taikonauts would take care of the fish tank. For instance, if the fish lay eggs, they will help in collecting the eggs. They will also take water samples. We will monitor the changes in the water samples. We will also videotape the fish tank and see how the fish behave.
Wang said the scientists prefer that the group stays limited to 4, lest a bigger crowd crashes the system. But even if it's small size-wise, the self-circulating ecosystem could be telling the scientists something big.
Zebrafish are lab rats in water, and they're quite close to us humans. They share over 80% of our genes. Some human diseases can be studied using zebrafish as model organisms. Since water occupies such a large part of our Earth, in the long term, the study of this aquatic ecosystem would help us better understand the Earth's ecosystem.
In time, the experiment could also lead to some real-life use in space. Wang said fishes are efficient sources of food, and if they can be farmed in space, they could be a good source of protein for astronauts. Wang also said the team is eyeing to scale up the experiment in the future, where fish can live a whole life cycle in space, from egg to another egg. 深夜40天酒泉甘肃 Province.
So, Professor Sui, you're pretty excited about the studies on zebrafish in space. What kind of real life implications would that have on our daily lives?
So, as we discussed, I think about 2 hours ago, that this experiment is very excited, is bringing this very vibrant fish to the space. So, zebrafish is a very important animal model for biological study. In the field of animal study, we have fruit flies, zebrafish, mice to be the very standard used animals to study a variety of different diseases and also biological processes of animals. And zebrafish as the very simple but also very close to our human beings vertebrate. Yeah, so it's a vertebrate comparing to fruit flies. They are non-vertebrate. But in the future, we may have more complicated, complex biological systems in the space. But this is actually a very important and very complex species in the space. As the reporter mentioned, is we actually share 80% of our genes with zebrafish. And zebrafish, our scientists has already sequencing the whole genome of this animal. Yeah, so the study of this animal can go into very details on the behavior level, on their mechanics and biological micro scale level, and also on the very micro, say about their genes, about their molecules on that level too.
What other studies or scientific experiments have caught your eye?
The others are some stem cell experiments. Although those I would expect one day there are animal stem cell experiments, but right now they're doing plants stem cell experiments in space, because on Earth we know that stem cells are the very important cells that can grow into any specific cell type. into our body or into into the animal or the plant, right? So understanding their behavior besides our regular gravity condition in those microgravity space would probably lead to some new findings on how they grow and how they prosper. Yeah, and probably will lead to a future of, say, better economy of plants. Yeah.
Now, other than these scientific experiments, another major task for these crew members are major maintenance upgrades, right? They would use some of the spacewalks to do some maintenance work and make the spacecraft more collision-proof and crash-proof. Talk to us more about that. What kind of risk will the space station face while they're in orbit?
Well, Chuan, you may still remember during the live coverage of the Shenzhou-17 mission, we mentioned that the Shenzhou-17 mission conducted the first maintenance during the EVA, actually speaking, to repair our solar panels in the Tianhe-1 core module. This is because, that according to the announcement yesterday by Mr. Lin Xiqiang, some parts of our solar panels on the Tianhe-1 core module were damaged by the space debris because it's already orbiting the Earth for more than 3 years. So it is a serious problem. You see that only some unimportant parts were impacted by this debris. So nothing serious happened, but still we recovered the function of the solar panels by our EVA. But you cannot be sure that for the next 10 years, some of the space debris may hit the critical parts of our Tiangong space station. We have a lot of pipes, cables, and other critical things outside our station. And the important thing is that these parts are very critical for the normal operation of our space station. Also, that during the live coverage of the EVA of the previous mission before, we have the operation of mounting some motors for the cooling system of Tiangong space station, some pumps. And these pumps are also very important to keep the thermal control or keep the temperature very normal inside the station. But that there are coolant inside these pipes. If it was heat, there will be leakage. Very, very terrible. So we must protect these pipes and also some very critical cables, either for the maintenance or for the scientific research. So what you mentioned, this step is very, very necessary. So this will be one of the major tasks of our Shenzhou-18 crew. I believe that they've already been well trained for this.
Yeah, as you were speaking, we were looking at live pictures near the launch pad. There were huge crowds of people watching, waiting for the liftoff, watching the historic moment with us. Now, as we speak, the 3 astronauts are already in position, strapped in. Not much of a movement there. They are quietly waiting for, the final procedures, the final checks up. We're approaching 15 minutes prior to launch.
Yes.
And you mentioned Shenzhou-17 crew, right? The Shenzhou-18 crew will be welcomed by their peers from the Shenzhou-17 crew.
There is a very, very interesting experience of the Shenzhou, actually speaking, Shenzhou-17 crew and Shenzhou-16 crew. That during the launch of the Shenzhou-17 spacecraft, that Shenzhou-16 crew is watching the live coverage inside Tiangong Space Station. And when your colleagues of the CMG see this video, and she, actually Ms. Lao Chunyan, say hello to Mr. Jing Haipeng, the commander. And it is very interesting that Jing Haipeng react to her greeting. So this shows that the communication between our Tiangong Space Station and the ground is already very, very powerful now.
Very smooth connection there. I'm sure the Shenzhou-17 crew are watching
the live coverage.
Of this launch as well. With our Mandarin service, we might be able to see them later in the program. Very exciting moment.
Yeah. Because we know that we have the Tianlian data relay satellite. At this moment, we have both the first generation and the second generation Tianlian data relay satellite. So we can have multiple video streams, very high definition video streams, multiple from the cameras mounted in everywhere inside our Tiangong Space Station to give these videos to the ground. So we can, during this live coverage, not only the astronaut inside our Tiangong Space Station can see the launch procedure, but also we can see they are watching the live coverage.
Yeah, so the Shenzhou-17 crew and Shenzhou-18 crew will conduct another in-orbit handover.
Yes.
So we will see 6 astronauts in the space station at a time. Would that be a challenge?
This will be the 4th time we see this historical moment between the Shenzhou-17 crew and the Shenzhou-18 crew. That will be a very exciting moment, but not so exciting as the first one, because that we've already been very practical for this procedure, and also that to support and to realize this moment, we need the support from what we call the regenerative environmental control and life support system, because it is it can recycle all the resources, the water, oxygen, and so on. So at this moment, still you can see usually in most cases we can see the video camera mounted inside our re-entry capsule. Usually the commander and his companions sometimes read the manuals. You may notice that the manual not only includes the operations, the guidance of what they should do next, but also it has information, very necessary information when something wrong happens, what they should do.
Yeah, that's a call out. T-minus 15 minutes. And we've noticed that all the Shenzhou-18 crew were selected from 2010 and 2020. That's the second batch and the third batch of astronauts. And we're hearing words that the selection process for the 4th batch of astronauts will be finished soon. When do you think these new taikonauts will start their mission?
调度直通波，金山。
金山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
That's during the 3rd batch of astronauts, we already have flight engineers and payload experts. Mr. Gui Haichao from the Beijing University is the first payload expert. So in the future, because our technology becomes more and more practical and the Shenzhou space becomes more and more comfortable, so I believe professors like Mr. Sui maybe will be more and more of these scientists like him to go to the outer space.
Like a payload
expert.
And according to authorities, it's very likely that these new astronauts could be a part of the moon landing mission in the very near future.
Well, according to Mr. Yang Liwei, our first astronaut, he mentioned to the major media of China that all the astronauts chosen for the human missions to the moon will first have their experience inside our Tiangong space station. So this is a necessary requirement raised by ourselves. Yeah. I believe, as I mentioned, their experience in the Tiangong space station for half a year will be very, very helpful for them for the future moon missions, although the procedure is quite different.
And there were several candidates from Hong Kong and Macau making it to the final stages of the selection process. So, we could see new astronauts from these regions very soon. Let's get more updates from the launch pad. We can now go live to our reporter, Sun Ye. Sun Ye, great to see you. Also, Huang Yue is joining us from the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. Hey, great to see you too. So let's start with Sun Ye. Walk us through the preparations prior to the launch. We're getting really close. How are the astronauts doing now?
Hey there, Jiuquan, and hello again. Yes, the preparation is going at the last stage right now. It's minus 15 minutes until the launch. So throughout the last half an hour or so, we're seeing the last fires of cars leaving, and that means the rocket and everything in it is pretty much on its own, and they are ready. And then the astronauts, we earlier checked in with an expert with the astronaut system, and he said the Shenzhou-18 crew, they're doing fine. They're breathing all right. Their heart rates are fine. Now, this is only probably the only chance we'll get to see the rocket here in its hull and this spectacular scene. I think maybe it's all right if we take around a minute or so to have a good look, a last look at it before it goes up to space. Now, this Long March 2F manned carrier rocket, it actually came in compartments, in pieces, and was carried by train from northern China to here in Jiuquan in northwest China. And I think you're getting a better picture than me now, and I'm going to walk you through how this beautiful rocket is put together. Now, the first step is to put the core stage 1. That's the first thing to get stable, and then the 4 boosters, they are then attached to it, and then that's the core stage 2. The spaceship along with the fairing, they are close together in another place before they are transported to meet the other 2 stages already done. And the last item in that assembly is the escape tower. Now, the rocket has been in great condition ever since that assembly, and we have seen it rolled out earlier last week. And ever since then, it's checks and rechecking done by people across the systems. We also just talked to an expert with the rocket system. His work up until now is still checking that the rockets are fine, and the rocket is fine, and the spaceship is fine so far as we know. So everything is set for the launch that's happening in a few minutes.
Thank you very much. And as you were speaking, Sun-Ye, the launch time has been adjusted, has been moved up a little bit, just a little bit. Now, turning to you, Huang-Yue, the Beijing Aerospace Control Center is overseeing Shenzhou-18's launch. What's the latest there?
Yes, Jiuquan, the launch time is just around the corner, only a few minutes left. So here in the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, every staff member is busy making the last-minute preparations, as it's the command and information exchange center to ensure that every step and every aspect of the mission runs smoothly. So we are now actually on the third floor of the center, and on the first floor is the ground control team, and which is mainly responsible for the control and command over all working systems, such as those on the rockets, the spacecraft, the space station, and the launch site. And actually, if you and our audience once followed our previous missions, you might have already known that this team has a very special nickname called Beijing Copy, because this phrase once became so popular on Chinese social media platforms because it's going to be used so frequently and repeatedly in the hall after launching. And I arrived here hours earlier before the launch because, to be honest, this is also the first time for me to cover the launch mission. So I came here earlier trying to get more familiar with the situation. And one of the things that impressed me the most is that the team members here are quite young, and many of them are in their 30s or even 20s. So you can tell that people born in the 1990s have already become the main workforce for China's aerospace industry, and they're so calm and confident. It doesn't mean that they won't get nervous. Of course they could be, but they won't show that because they've already had a vigorous trainings and tests, and they are professional enough, they are intelligent enough to deal with any situation. So from them, you can see a very promising future for China's aerospace industry. And in addition to the ground control team, behind me there were two screens. As you can see, one shows the launch site and the other one shows a return capsule. And inside there are three taikonauts, the Shenzhou-17 crew members, and they are making the final preparation and waiting for their colleagues to come and meet with them. And I was told that they can actually watch the live broadcast of the mission. But of course, they are watching this CCTV 30, the Mandarin channel. But next time, I do suggest that they watch CGTN special live coverage, because I'm not worried about their language skills. And I believe they must also be very excited, because after a 6-month business trip to space, on the end of this month, they will come down back to Earth and they will meet their friends, families, and colleagues. Back to you, Jiuquan.
Thank you very much. Huang-Yue live for us in Beijing there. Now, medical protective measures are important for taikonauts to stay in space for a long time. And for the Shenzhou-18 mission, these are already in place. Li Yinghui, Deputy Chief Designer of the Astronaut System of China's Manned Space Program, explains how these measures keep taikonauts healthy in space.
For the Shenzhou-18 mission, we took personalized medical protection measures to keep our taikonauts healthy. This proved effective in the second space trip for Ye Guangfu this time. What's more, for this mission, we conducted a series of medical experiments in space. They cover several aspects. For example, we've done in-depth research on health assessment model building on the known risks. They will enrich our established knowledge, technical reserves, and database. They will also provide us more theoretical and technical support. We also use traditional Chinese medicine like acupoint therapy, which adds to the healthy protection for taikonauts.
For those of you who just joined us, you're watching our special coverage of the Shenzhou-18 launch. We're less than 15 minutes to go till the launch, and as our Sun-Ye earlier mentioned, all the ground staff have pulled back already. And but the rocket's still attached. Is it? Is it still attached to the launch tower? It's not running on its own just
you may
yet.
notice that the rotational arms in the middle of the rocket is still connected to attached to the launch vehicle. So which means that still we have the cables provide the electricity to the launch vehicle, and also maybe at about 3 minutes, 5 or 3 minutes, some of the arms will leave the launch vehicle and the launch vehicle will stand on its own. But you know that I can still still notice that when you talk with Ms. Sun Ye, I noticed that the commander and also his crew members are still reading the manual very carefully. Also, you know that yesterday during the conference, when the crew member meet with the media, you know that they are full of confidence, but they are not so very careful and be aware of what the challenge they will face. So, like their previous crew members, they are reading their manual. As I mentioned, not only the normal operations and the normal procedure, but also all the conditions they must possibly to be faced. So this is this shows that they are very, very professional.
Yeah, we're approaching T minus 5 minutes.
Okay.
There you go, the call out.
So in the coming minutes, we will have several very, very important steps, as we've already discussed. The transfer of power supply from the ground to the launch vehicle itself, and also the activation of the what we call the guidance, navigation, and control system, or the GNC system. And also, as we've already heard many times, the commander in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, usually we call that the Commander Zero.
Well, they've put down their face shield.
Okay, they close the face mask of the helmet. So at this moment, they have formed the second airtight sealings as a backup measure to ensure their safety.
And they're still looking at their manuals. What kind of things are on their checklist? You would assume?
There are all kinds of instructions on if you met this problem, how to solve it, how to do any right operation or the right choice.
Yeah, and it's usually very quiet at a launch control around this time as we're getting really close to time zero. Not so much calm going on there except for a few simple commands and the final countdown. And that's because the final status checks by now, most of them have been completed, so that's a good sign. You don't want to hear too much noises around this time.
Yep. And also, you know that today in the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center and in other launch sites of China, we also use UAV, manned air vehicle, to give a good sight of the launch, the whole launch procedure itself. And also, in every live coverage, we can see from our CGTN coverage, we can see the videos from the cameras mounted on the launch vehicle. So that's also a very good reference for us to ensure the status of the launch vehicle and also everything goes okay.
And you're looking at the launch control. T minus 3 minutes. I suppose everybody is going through their own task procedure for a final time in their mind. Super focused because this is a teamwork, right? Everybody needs to do their job perfectly right to make sure we have a good launch. I think it's going through the astronaut's mind. I think as much as this is a moment for excitement, this could be a moment for anxiety.
You know,
too.
that they have been trained many, many times for this. You know that from the experience, not to be Chinese astronauts, some of my friends, the foreign astronauts, they said they cannot distinguish from a simulation or a real one. So this shows that they've been trained so intensively, and the simulation is feels so real.
To it.
Today, with the VR and AR technology, it becomes more real than before.
Yeah. And really, there's not much they can do for this short period of time. They're being strapped in, things are out of their hands. They're basically relying on their team to get them out there safely.
Usually, they will salute before the, maybe several seconds before the liftoff.
We're approaching T minus 2 minutes, I guess.
Yep. So this is a beautiful evening of Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
1号注意，我是0号，1分钟准备。
高考注意，1分钟准备。
1 minute out. An incredible moment to witness. Truly a magnificent view.
50秒。
The weather is a bit cloudy in Jiuquan, so the reporter mentioned that we may or may not see the moon.
Yeah.
The rotational arms has already been rotated.
So the umbilicals just pulled away. This is some riveting feed there. You can see the Shenzhou-18
Yeah, as we
crew.
mentioned, they are watching the live coverage.
Yeah. And they have decorated the space station a little bit, put up welcome banners.
Yeah.
20 seconds to go. It's a go for the launch. The Shenzhou-18 is just seconds away from blast off. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ignition. And at the moment, 20 seconds after the liftoff, we will have a pitch over, which means that the flight direction will change from a vertical one to the horizontal one, to the eastward.
Just a spectacular view there.
Yeah, you can see the 8 engines working very perfect.
And you can hear the voices from the launch team providing tracking status, saying things are going good. And that's
Great. We can see the videos from the camera mounted, looking backwards.
So these are the side boosters.
Yeah, we can see 2 of the side boosters. And at about, I believe this moment already the pitch over has already been accomplished.
So if things goes well, we could see the escape tower being detached in just a few minutes.
We just heard that the ground stations report that everything goes okay, the flight is normal.
And we can see both the infrared image and the optical image.
Exactly. So at the moment of the 120 seconds will be the critical step to jettison the escape tower.
So the escape tower is essentially a small solid fuel rocket set on top of the capsule. In the event of an emergency, such as an impending explosion, it'll pull the capsule far enough away from the launch vehicle to allow for a normal parachute land.
Because at the moment of 2 minutes, it's already high enough. So we don't need the escape tower. But still, we have emergency escape engines on the payload ferry. We can see that during the live coverage previously. We can see the trail, as you mentioned, on this maybe infrared image.
Yeah, if it's during the day, we could see it very clearly, but because it's dark.
But we don't have other choices because of the launch window just lie in this moment.
Yeah, so we're relying on the infrared image now. Another critical step coming up very soon.
At the moment, 153 minutes. Okay, great.
Oh, that's the call out.
The emergency escape tower has already set. Great.
Booster separation.
The separation of 4 boosters. And then the separation of the first stage.
Immediately.
助推器分离。
1、2级分离。
一级关机，
first
一、二
stage
级分离。
separation. A successful separation.
Great. And the next critical step will be the separation of the payload fairings.
东风、光学、USB、雷达跟踪正常，
Fast
遥测
few
信号正常。
minutes, we've seen a series of fast maneuvers and status reports there.
Now the combination of the Shenzhou spacecraft and the launch vehicle is flying eastwards. Oh, this is video cameras mounted on the rear part of the second stage. And this camera is inside the payload fairing, looking forward. You can see that's okay.
There you have it.
The separation of the payload fairing.
抛整流罩。
Roughly 4 minutes into the flight, we are seeing fairing jettison. So now the spacecraft is exposed in space.
I
just heard the voice of Mr. Ye Guangfu, the commander. He reported that the payload fairings, now they can see the sightseeing outside. But I believe 02 and 03 have a better view.
Yeah, they've got a window seat.
Yeah. But there is no aisle seat.
I wonder what they could see from their windows now.
Usually, in the previous missions, sometimes they can entering the sunshine areas, but this moment they are still in the shadow areas of the Earth.
So in about few minutes, we're going to see the second stage rocket being dropped. So
well, the second stage works much longer than the first stage, more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now you can see this is the camera the video camera mounted on the second stage.
Is this the time that the crew will feel maximum G-forces?
Usually that happens
right before
at the separation of stages, because at the moment the thrust has a certain number, but you know that with the fuel becomes less and less, and the acceleration becomes greater and greater. Usually at the separation of the first stage or the separation at the second stage, they will experience the maximum peak of the G-forces.
So you might want to take a look at these astronauts and see just whether it'll show on their face or, you know, through their body gesture.
But the 3 to 4 G is not a big problem for them.
It's nothing for them?
They will be trained for up to 8 to 10 Gs. And even in 8 to 10 G, they can do the right operations.
So the highest G load they're going to feel is around
10. In abnormal
during
cases.
The flight?
No, in this normal flight,
5G?
usually 3.6.
Okay, that's not so bad.
Not so bad.
But that's already a large number for our normal people. Imagine you have 3 more people on yourself, right? So that's the loading.
Usually, how would your body react to that many G-forces?
Usually you just need to say activate more muscles. You recruit more muscle activity to work against that overgravity.
Is there anything that they can do now to offset the effect of high G-forces?
I think the design of their seat and their body posture is already very helpful for them to remove the actual forces. Yeah. So if everything's normal, as we just heard, they are actually in a quite comfortable condition, yeah, as they are very used to those in their everyday training. Yeah.
Now we can see on the left of the screen is the video camera mounted on the second stage looking backwards. Our second stage of the Long March 2F rocket have one main engine with a thrust about 80 tons. And also we have 4 vernier engines which control the attitude and the direction. So you can see the video camera monitoring the proper working of these rocket engines. Very bright, but this moment is already out of the atmosphere. Okay. Still, the Shenzhou-17 crew is watching the live coverage. They will meet after 6 or 7 hours.
Very soon, very soon.
I believe our Shenzhou-17 crew have already prepared the breakfast for our Shenzhou-18 crew.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And I suppose in a few minutes after the second stage shut down, we are going to see things starting to drift, starting to float.
But you know that the normal procedure is that we first shut down the main engine. Still, the 4 vernier engines works. And we will adjust the trajectory. Okay, as I mentioned, the main engine shut off. And the 4 vernier engines still working, and we will adjust the trajectory very precisely. So after several seconds, after we have already entered the right orbit, we will shut down the vernier engines. And then will be the separation of the spacecraft.
Yeah, so it looks like the astronauts are feeling a bit more at ease now.
Yes, because you know that because the shutdown of the main engine, the G-forces is not so remarkable now.
Yeah, as the environment is changing from high G-forces to microgravity conditions.
So when the shutdown of the vernier engine, they will experience 0 G.
Yeah, so things will start to be floating if you watch closely. Oh, that's the shot at the solar panel.
Yeah, it's still folded now.
So the next critical step would be?
The shutdown of the vernier engines. Okay. You can see on the bottom right is a 3D simulation, but this simulation is based on the real data, which means that the position, the attitude of the launch vehicle is representing the real status. So you can see the second stage works much longer than the first one because the thrust is much smaller. we have 2 solar wings and each have 4 panels.
I think for the 2 new astronauts, Li Guangsu and Li Chong, this will be a very exciting moment.
Changjiang-7 is a space tracking ship. The code, I believe it will be Yuanwang-7 space tracking ship. It's in the Pacific Ocean, and it's already established. Look on the simulation, we look at the dash lines. It's already established. Okay, great. Separation confirmed.
So you can get a really good look at the spacecraft now in that 3D animation. 3 modules, right? Talk to us about it.
Yeah. So the next critical step will be the unfolding of the solar panels. So only with this operation we can have continuous power supply for the Shenzhou spaceship.
So by now the second stage is drifting away in space. The rocket has completed its tests that send the spacecraft into the planned orbit successfully.
And also from the voice, we can hear that our Changjiang-7 or the Yuanwang-7 space tracking ship has already established stable communication with our Shenzhou spaceship.
And a big shout out to the Shenzhou-17 crew. They're watching us.
Yeah, they are more relaxed.
Because they will be getting back to Earth in a few days.
Actually, I believe they will not sleep this evening, this night, because they will be very, very exciting. There are visitors.
Yeah, they'll be back in about 5 days.
Yeah.
And I believe they will bring very fresh fruit for them.
And they've also made rooms for their friends.
There are 6 bedrooms inside of 3 in the Tianhe 1 comma.
长江7号跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。
But in China's tradition, we don't have a 0G indicator. Usually in other countries, they have some point to be the 0G indicator to show it's floating everywhere.
The ground team is confirming the status with the crew and confirming the status of the spacecraft.
And Mr. Ye Guangfu, the commander, and Mr. Tang Hongbo, the commander of the Shenzhou-17 crew, both come from the second mission. This are their second flight mission.
顶站收到，东风。东风收到。3、2、1。
With the separation of the end stage of the rocket, the Shenzhou-18 spacecraft is already in orbit. So next, our ground team will check the accuracy of the orbital parameters. If everything is accurate enough, we can announce that it is a successful launch.
北京明白。
长程报告，太阳帆板展开正常。
太阳帆板展开正常。
Great. The solar panels are unfolded very normally.
And what comes after this? What comes next?
Next will be the examination of the, as I mentioned, we will double check or even triple check with different data resources to check the accuracy of the orbital parameters. Because this accuracy is very critical for us to chasing the Tianhe space station and dock visit.
So we cannot just declare the success just yet. We have to wait for...
We just heard his voice that the antenna for the data relay satellites has already been unfolded very normally. You know that we have a small device to keep connection with our data relay satellite, but we also have a high gain antenna which can send videos from this antenna to the Tianhe data relay satellite. This is also very important for us.
That's a big improvement compared to previous missions.
And it also ensures the very reliable connection between the ground stations and our ground centers to our Shenzhou spacecraft. You know, every mission is risky because you know that there are so many uncertainties. So keep a very smooth communication with the Space Flight Center, Control Center will be a very good insurance to keep the success of our flight mission.
Now looking at the three astronauts.
神舟18号，我是北京。
Let's listen in.
神舟18号到。通报座舱大气环境及身体情况。神舟18号明白。
We've just heard ground control exchanging a few words with the flight commander, trying to confirm their status.
Air quality.
Yeah, so Ye Guangfu just said
feeling good.
Yeah, they're feeling okay. They're feeling good.
长城，我是北京，通报座舱环境。
And the internal environment inside the spacecraft is also good.
北京明白。神舟18号，我是北京，经地面确认，座舱环境正常，可以打开面窗。神舟18号明白。
We have a very important, very critical subsystem called the atmospheric control system. So as mentioned we heard the voice that the atmosphere inside the cabin is good. So they can open their face mask.
Yep. Another critical step.
You can see they are still busy reading their manual.
Yeah. I mean, a pretty young team we're looking at, in their 30s, 40s. Is this a trend? Are we going to see younger and younger astronauts in the future?
Yeah, I think we're looking forward to see the younger generation of astronauts. They are taking charge of more and more launching missions.
But what's considered as a prime age range for astronauts? Or there's no such thing?
I think it depends from
倾角41.5度，周期1小时30分钟的预定轨道，飞船座舱环境正常，航天员状态良好。北京突轨根数及分离点参数已向各方向发出。东风。东风明白。华山。
We've already got the orbital parameters as announced by the Beijing Flight Control Center. So the so the perigee is 200 kilometers, and the apogee is 356 kilometers, and the inclination is 41.5 degrees. So it's a very accurate launch.
It'll take an hour and a half, right, for them.
So they will spend 6.5 hours in orbit to chase our Tiangong space station and finally dock to the docking port at the bottom of our node.
And that'll be an automated rendezvous?
In normal cases, it will be automatic one. But if anything wrong happens to the automated docking system, as you mentioned, we will switch to the manual docking. And all these crew members were well trained for this operation.
This is the Beijing Aerospace Flight Center. So after the launch, they will be taking over the monitoring job. We're still standing by for an official confirmation declaring the launch as a success.
Well, after coming into orbit of our Shenzhou spacecraft, the control will be switch from our Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center to Beijing Flight Control Center.
Mm-hmm. So Beijing will take over.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess the ground team are doing some calculations, maybe some adjustment burns.
Exactly.
For the spacecraft.
As I mentioned, we based on different data resources to confirm the accuracy of each orbital parameter to ensure that it is accurate enough. Because as we've already discussed, the Shenzhou spacecraft must enter the same orbital plane of our Tiangong space station. So this is the most essential and most important requirement to its accuracy. And then, because it is now lower than our Tiangong space station, so it orbiting the Earth faster than our Tiangong space station. So it is a chasing vehicle, and it comes closer and closer, and after 6.5 hours, we will dock together.
天路跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。天路跟踪正常。
Tianlu is another name of our Tianlian data relay satellite system. So at this moment, it's already out of the coverage of our space tracking ship, and it is mainly based on our Tianlian data relay satellite. As we've already heard the voice, that the high gain antenna has already been unfolded. So at this moment, we can transfer not only the voices, but also can transfer the videos from our cabin of our Shenzhou spacecraft.
Right. You know, China has this three-step strategy for its space exploration. The third phase, which is the last phase, is building its space station. Can we say that we've met that target? What's next for our space exploration?
Yes, we've already accomplished this step. And next, as we mentioned, we are now in the phase of utilization and development. But still, we have a lot of work in the future. For instance, our King space station will be expanded, doubled in the future.
We're now joined by Professor Mark McCog-Reed, a former senior advisor for science and exploration at the European Space Agency in the Netherlands. Great to have you with us, Professor. Now, the Shenzhou-18 has just launched. We are standing by for an official confirmation of the launch success. But what significance does it have for space exploration?
Well, assuming everything's gone well, which it sounds like it has, congratulations to the crew and everybody involved. Going back to the space station, of course, you have 3 astronauts there already waiting for them, and then you will change the crew for another 6-month expedition, as they're often called, on the Chinese space station. This is very similar to what we've been doing for many years, of course, with the International Space Station. And as one of your speakers there just said, this is about building capacity, expanding the space station, and doing research and development, both on the space station, scientifically, doing interesting things there. In fact, one thing, as an astronomer, one thing I'm really excited about is the Zhuntian Space Telescope, which should be launched to Tiangong, not docked to it, but nearby to it, and doing some very interesting scientific astronomy experiments over the years to come. But it's about that development, building the station, making it an efficient place to do science, but also looking forward, I imagine, to the moon and Mars.
Now, China has said astronauts from other countries are welcome to go to the China space station. It says it is committed to the peaceful development in space. How would you assess prospects for international collaboration in space exploration?
Well, that's a very interesting question, of course, particularly given the current geopolitical context. Without going into too much depth, the world is not perhaps in a happy place at the moment. And exactly how nations decide to collaborate on many things, of course, is something which is constantly in focus politically. And space is a political thing. We should never just think of it in terms of science or exploration. There is a strong political element. But I think it's also worth looking back to the past and looking, for example, at the Apollo-Soyuz test project in the 1970s, and the space station itself, the International Space Station, where, of course, the United States and Russia at the moment have grave differences over the war in Ukraine, but are still collaborating in space. So it's not an easy thing to see into the future and see how that international collaboration may also include China. But I'm optimistic that we'll find ways of doing that, because the things we want to do in space are incredibly challenging and do indeed need to bring nations together to solve some of those problems. And those problems then reflect on the Earth. We have problems on the Earth we need to solve. So being able to collaborate internationally in space also might give us hope we can collaborate internationally, for example, on climate change. So I think it's a tricky question, but let's be optimistic and see that we can actually work together.
Yeah, let's be optimistic. Thank you very much, Professor Mark McCog-Reed. Thank you very much for taking the time talking to us. We appreciate your perspectives. Now, Yang Liwei, the Deputy Chief Designer of China's manned space program, talked to CGTN reporter Zheng Yibing on international cooperation in space programs, including China's manned lunar landing. Listen in.
From the perspective of manned space flights, international cooperation is a well-established practice. It is true for our country and also space powers like the United States and Russia, which are cooperating even under such tense international circumstances. So we actually, from the early days till now, when we have a space station, have been seeking cooperation even though there's a lot of international constraint. Therefore, we took a path of self-reliance. For manned lunar landing, we discussed its feasibility around 2010 and 2011, and we're looking for international cooperation. We hope that different countries and institutions can join us in the whole lunar landing program, complement each other's efforts, promote the development of this cause, and explore the unknown for human beings. So I hope more countries and institutions will join us.
Stay with us for more of our live coverage on the space Shenzhou-18 launch mission. And now for more on the top stories making headlines around the world.
天路1号04星展布数捕获飞船，前反电路已建立。北京明白。
小是把迷，嗓子有点干。
神舟18号，我是北京。
神舟18号到。
通报飞船工况。
神舟18号明白。神舟18号报告，飞船工作正常，完毕。
北京明白，飞船将于3分钟后进行发动机试喷，请系好束缚带。
神舟18号明白。
天路跟踪飞船正常，前反电路抒发正常。天路跟踪正常。
是立即稽查。
长城报告，整船具备实施3圈自主原导条件。
天路跟踪飞船正常，
北京明白。
前反应数据出发正常。
天路跟踪正常。
长城报告，发动机试喷正常。
发动机试喷正常。神舟18号，我是北京，发动机试喷结束，可以解开束缚带。
神舟18号明白。
神舟18号，下面由曙光与你通话。曙光，我是北京。
神舟18号明白。
曙光到，下面由你与神舟18号通话。曙光明白。
动幺，我是一间医生，你现在自我感觉怎样？
动幺感觉良好。
明白。动2，我是一间医生，你现在自我感觉怎样？
动2感觉良好。
动3，我是一间医生，你现在自我感觉怎样？
动3感觉良好。
明白。动1、动2、动3，请注意限制头动、眼动，请注意按标配食品进食。
动1明白。动2明白。动3明白。
通话完毕。
北京曙光报告。我是北京曙光，请讲。曙光与神舟18号通话完毕。北京明白。
长城报告，飞船转自主交会正常启动。
北京明白。各号注意，我是北京，飞船转自主交会正常启动，具备实施3圈自主原导条件。
神舟18号报告，动幺准备打开返回舱舱门平衡阀，完毕。
北京明白。报告轨返2舱压力。
轨道舱压力为92.77，返回舱压力为95.08，完毕。
北京明白。
长城报告，轨道舱环境正常，满足打开返回舱舱门平衡阀条件。
北京明白。神舟18号，我是北京。
神舟18号到。
轨道舱环境正常，可以打开返回舱舱门平衡阀。
神舟18号明白。平衡打开，然后调整返回舱排气调压组件，排气节止阀为调压，气压节止阀再关闭。 明白。排气调压下完毕，正确。排气调压，气压维持在关闭，正确。排气调压，好嘞。神舟18号报告，返回舱舱门平衡阀已打开，返回舱排气节止阀设为调压，气压节止阀维持关闭，完毕。
北京明白。
长城报告，轨返2舱压力平衡，满足打开返回舱舱门条件。
北京明白。
正常，具备实施自主轨控条件。
北京明白。各号注意，飞船状态正常，按正常计划实施第一次自主变轨。
可以，它在这飘的不影响你观察，谢谢。好。影响你。
神舟18号，我是北京。
神舟18号到。
飞船10分钟后使用 A 组发动机进行第一次变轨，请固定物品，系好束缚带。
神舟18号明白。对，稍微还是固定一下。好。可以，这几个。系好束缚带。明白，明白。
天路1号04星跟踪飞船结束。天路1号04星跟踪结束。
benefits that comes from China's space program, right? China's satellite services, including a Fengyun satellite or a meteorological satellite or a Beidou navigation satellite system, they collectively serve hundreds of millions of users. How would you assess the global benefits of such services?
Yeah, the global, I think the global commercial markets would be very welcome to see that besides the GPS system, we have multiple different choices, that can provide a different level of services. So this would be very helpful, I think, globally to provide extra value besides what we've already had.
Now, to learn more about the spacecraft carrying out the Shenzhou-18 mission, our reporter Zheng Yibin talked to a senior researcher for the spacecraft system.
The Shenzhou-18 is a third manned spacecraft for mission to China's space station. It has the same design as Shenzhou-16, 17, and the following 19 spacecraft.
From the general technical state, there are the orbital module, the re-entry module, and the propellant module. And there are solar panels and the engines. They are consistent with the previous technological designs.
The biggest difference this time is upgrade to the spacecraft's battery, replacing the cadmium nickel battery with lighter and smaller lithium one, which has a much longer life.
The Shenzhou spacecraft as a manned vehicle requires the highest safety and reliability. The upgrade to the battery has been fully verified in our space station, cargo ships, and other spacecraft.
There were also small modifications, like a little more space for space science experiments. And Chen Tongxiang explained how Shenzhou-18's flight will go.
It is the 7th manned flight for China's space station. After liftoff from Jiuquan, it will fly for 6.5 hours and make orbital transfer, and then the fast rendezvous and docking with the space station. Shenzhou-18 crew will rotate with Shenzhou-17 crew and stay in the station for 6 months and then return.
For this mission, the Shenzhou spacecraft system has been working day and night to make sure the flight goes smoothly. Zheng Yibin, CCTN in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
The Shenzhou-18 crew is taking a self-sufficient ecosystem with it to the China space station. The experiment they would be working on involved the second most complex vertebrate the space station has ever seen. Arsenia has the report.
4 zebrafish, 2 females, 2 males, a bunch of hornwort. In a watertight fish tank the size of 2 or 3 water bottles, China space station's first experiment on vertebrates other than human beings looks something like this. The project on aquatic life support system in space is part of the many science studies the Shenzhou-18 mission will undertake. Professor Wang Gaohong, one of the scientists behind this lively experiment, says the aim is to keep the small ecosystem self-sufficient, where the homeward conducts photosynthesis with LED light and let the fish be alive and happy for a month. So happy that they may lay eggs.
Taikonauts would take care of the fish tank. For instance, if the fish lay eggs, they will help in collecting the eggs. They will also take water samples. We will monitor the changes in the water samples. We will also videotape the fish tank and see how the fish behave.
Wang said the scientists prefer that the group stays limited to 4, lest a bigger crowd crashes the system. But even if it's small size-wise, the self-circulating ecosystem could be telling the scientists something big.
Zebrafish are lab rats in water, and they're quite close to us humans. They share over 80% of our genes. Some human diseases can be studied using zebrafish as model organisms. Since water occupies such a large part of our Earth, in the long term, the study of this aquatic ecosystem would help us better understand the Earth's ecosystem.
In time, the experiment could also lead to some real-life use in space. Wang said fishes are efficient sources of food, and if they can be farmed in space, they could be a good source of protein for astronauts. Wang also said the team is eyeing to scale up the experiment in the future, where fish can live a whole life cycle in space, from egg to another egg. 深夜40天，9泉，甘肃 Province。
The Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is home to China's first space mission. More than 6 decades later, it has evolved into a key place for China's quest into space. Our reporter Zheng Yibing is at the launch center to give us a glimpse of its past, present, and the future.
China has been pursuing its space dreams and reaching one goal after another. But do you know where all these have evolved from? With this question, I came here, the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwestern China. On April 24, 1970, China's first satellite Dongfang 1 was launched from here into space. To honor this, April 24 was later celebrated as China's Space Day. I followed a staff member here to explore the history of this launch center.
这是中国的第一个发射塔架，它呢叫5020工位，也是我们国家的东方红卫星呢第一个东方红卫星升起的地方。可以看到，你看那个对面还有一个塔架，它呢叫138工位。这两个塔架呢分别建成于1966年和1971年。从建成到现在呢，一共是发射了44次任务，其中最有名的呢就是我们的第一个东方红卫星，第一次返回式卫星，还有第一次远程运载火箭。第一次对外搭载和一箭三星这5次发射任务是这个发射场的一个最有这个标志性的这个5个大的事件，可以说中国航天进步的每一步都在这里留下了它的印记。
And then, new launch towers were built at the launch center. This is the only launch pad in China for manned space missions. It has been in operation for 25 years and now is a backbone for missions to China's space station.
这座塔架是1994年开工建设，1997年竣工，1999年首次执行神舟1号飞船任务，到现在已经使用了25年，圆满完成了20多次发射任务，把我国20名航天员、32人次安全送入太空。 我们每年都要对这座塔架进行全面细致的检修和维护。未来，我们要对这座塔架进行可靠性提升、智慧化升级等相关改造，确保圆满完成后续的发射任务。
Now the launch center is doing more than that. This is one of the launching complexes for the commercial aerospace companies. Back in 2018, Landspace launched its first rocket here. Over the following years, more than 30 commercial rockets from 6 companies were launched from this area. Here are the commercial launch sites, creating a number of milestones, such as Tianlong-2, the first commercial liquid-fuel rocket in China to reach Earth's orbit by space pioneer, Zhuque-2, the world's first liquid-oxygen lithium-powered rocket to put into orbit by Landspace, and the first stage of takeoff and landing tests for reusable commercial rockets. The quest continues. In the near future, the companies hope to become the dynamic force of China's space exploration. Zheng Yibing, CGTN, in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
You're watching our special coverage of the Shenzhou-18 mission. Looks like you can already see the Earth from the spacecraft. Right? Looking at the live picture there.
I just heard the voice that the Beijing Flight Control Center asked the crew, they can open the hatch now. which means that they can enter the orbital module, which will be more comfortable.
Oh, so during the 6 hours time, they could move around between the re-entry module and the orbital module.
Exactly, because you know that the space will be much bigger for them.
Yeah.
So, more comfortable.
And it's getting brighter. You can see, right, sunlight from
actually speaking, with today, the lights inside our cabin is already more advanced than before, because today the semiconductor LCD lights are more practical than years before. But they are now preparing for the docking with rendezvous and docking with our Tiangong space station. So they will, I believe, they will also be very busy. You know that we will conduct several orbital maneuvers, most automatically, but the astronauts will well monitor all these very critical procedures, which define the distance, the relative distance and relative position between the Tiangong space station and our Shenzhou spacecraft.
And how difficult is the docking process?
We can still remember that during my first cooperation with CGTN, still called CCTV News before, we have the live coverage of the rendezvous and the docking procedure. And at that moment, because we haven't mastered this technology, we still do that very, very careful. And today, because it is very practical, as I mentioned, so this is reason why we can conduct a faster rendezvous and docking. And also, you know, one of the Tianzhou spacecraft, maybe Tianzhou 4 or Tianzhou 5, conducted the fastest, only 2 hours from the launch to the docking of the Tiangong space station. Also make a world record.
It's interesting that they can move around now.
We just heard that the power generation, the power supply is very normal.
So things are going well with the spacecraft. I mean, the space station is much bigger compared to what it was in the very beginning.
Yes, the 3 module, the inner volume is more than 110 cubic meters, so very, very big.
Will it be expanded into even
yes,
bigger
exactly.
one?
So in the future, we will dock another 2010 level module to the front or to the node. So the front docking port will be occupied. But with the 4th module, we will have more docking ports and berthing ports. So we will have more reliable redundant, because today we only have 3 docking ports of the whole station. The rear docking port usually is occupied by the Tianzhou.
根据北京实时遥测数据监视判断，飞船太阳帆板展开，工况正常，原导第一次变轨正常，后续工作按正常飞控计划实施。神舟18号。
神舟18号明白。
东风。
东风明白。
华山。
华山明白。
江阴。
江阴明白。
长城。
长城明白。
The Beijing Flight Control Center, the commander just announced that the power generation is normal, and also the first orbit maneuver, as we discussed, is also normal.
This is to better position the spacecraft to dock with Tiangong space
They
station.
will conduct from the after they enter the orbit and before the docking, they will conduct several orbit maneuvers. Each one is critical. Each one is important. For them to chase our Tiangong space station.
And everyone is also keen to know when China will open its space station for international astronauts. By what stage will we see astronauts from other countries also living and working in the Tiangong space station alongside Chinese astronauts?
I believe we will see this within several years. You know that according to the announcement by...
Let's listen in. Sounds
we will
like
heard
that's
the
the
formal
official
announcement of the result.
Officials, experts. According to the Beijing Aerospace Control Center and the flight data and report, the Long March 2F Ye-18 carrier rocket has sent Shenzhou-18 manned spacecraft to the preset orbit. The solar panels have been unfolded and are functioning well. I now declare the launch of Shenzhou-18 mission a complete success.
Beijing 明白。
There you have it, an official confirmation from the command center. The launch is a success. That was Zhou Lipeng, director of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch